Hello, um, I'm Andy Park, Chief Growth Officer at TeamCentral, and I wanted to welcome you to our first panel discussion on an important topic on every business owner's mind these days. How do I get my business AI ready? We have a great panel of professionals here that are willing to share their perspectives on the topic, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. Without further ado, Edward is going to, our moderator is going to provide some introductions and kick off the panel discussion.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Good afternoon. My name is Edward Harof. I'm CEO of Digital Cloud Solutions.ai. Happy to be moderating the first of these AI discussions, and we've got quite a panel here, and I'm excited to introduce all of them. Marc Johnson, founder of TeamCentral. Marc is iPaaS solution provider, provides data integration for AI. Also preparing and optimizing data for advanced analytics and automation, and recently developing a new AI solution overlay called Sidekick. And we have Anthony Ciarlo with Deloitte, who's in charge of AI and data at Deloitte Consulting. And he serves as the AI solutions architect, guiding enterprises and harnessing advanced analytics and automation, specializing in designing strategies and delivering ROI on AI investments, basically AI and data, former SAP, FSI industry focus. And welcome Sunnie Southern, CEO of Viable Synergy. She's founder and CEO and integrates digital solutions and AI into healthcare and business processes, and also recognized as 2024's most empowering women leaders in AI. Welcome to, glad to have you here. And Kamil Karbowiak from Data Courage from Poland, who's joining us. He's co-founder of Data Courage. In the business 20 years, 7 years in developing solutions for AI, in particular Dynamics, and for finance, customer, and item intelligence. Welcome to the group. And John Salisbury, Nexigen, although John is very involved with about 6 different companies in the area. So John, I won't go through all of those, but encourage you to visit his LinkedIn and see all the great work that he's doing in the area, helping emerging technologies for the communities and implementations, digitalization, all focusing around AI and even smart city technology. So Naren Kanteti, HireRight, Senior Vice President, Enterprise Data Analytics, AI, ML, RPA. Strategic leader at HireRight. His deep experience in AI governance and compliance, and focusing on operational efficiency and customer experience, and anything to do with all of those areas around hiring. And we'll get into that during the conversation. So with that, why don't we get to it? We're going to cover a series of questions. We can't solve all the questions and interesting topics of AI because it's such a broad area. But today we have just a lot of very skilled and practical application experience of AI. Since you hear a lot of theory out there, it's always good to really have someone who can filter the noise and actually bring deliverable solutions and how to prepare you and your company to adopt and bring AI into the business. And that's what we're going to try to set for you today, is a foundation. So we'll start with the first question. What are the emerging AI trends and technologies that leaders should be paying attention to for the next 3 to 5 years? And I'm going to ask a group of people that we designated, but certainly everybody can join in as they think of something. So we'll start with Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Edward and team. Great to be with everybody today. Uh, as you mentioned, Edward, we could spend our entire time talking about AI and what is AI. And my favorite definition of it is from a gentleman by the name of Larry Tesler that said, AI is whatever hasn't been created yet, right? And that kind of follows suit with the trends of what we're seeing is that the realm of AI, it's always been around us and existed. I mean, there's AI within your personal home, right? With your thermostat. That's a simple piece of AI, all the way to what we're labeling as superhuman computing, that everything in between, it's just moving at a very, very, very fast pace, right? And so from a business lens, the number one trend that we're seeing is that there is a lot of pressure in keeping pace with all the change. That's number one. Number two is a lot of companies have tried POCs or proven out the technology, but now the big trend is you got to derive value out of this, right? Some kind of value. And then number three, what everyone's really kind of seeing today now is that there was always this kind of fear of it's an either or, right? Either you use AI or you don't use AI. And now they're trying to kind of re-strategize that and blend a humans with machine kind of methodology that AI can be implemented within your firm without just being a human replacement.
Exactly. John, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like I love that analogy, by the way, Anthony. That was really that, and I'd not heard of that individual like anything new with AI. I sort of look at AI as an extension of humanity into the digital environment. So it's sort of like you're speaking almost to a personality construct that we've kind of placed there and oriented. In certain instances, you have large models, which are been the kind of dominant player in the AI space, and we've seen them with OpenAI and ChatGPT and Google Gemini and some of the other ones. And they sort of have this broadness to them, and they suffer from hallucinations and some of these other problems of stability and precision and so forth. So we're seeing the rise of like agentic AI systems, which are I mean, what's the difference between an agent and a large model? I think it's really large models are agents to a degree, but we're talking about more precise data sets with higher data quality in a specific narrow focus or a narrower focus, and you're able to get more deterministic outcomes. We're also seeing models that are multimodal or work together in orchestration as like a mixture of experts. And I think that's actually really fascinating because you have so many different options, a way of consolidating those models together in an easy, intuitive user interface, making it easier on the human to interact with. And then the last thing I'm seeing, two more. One would be enterprise search. I think is huge. I think search in general has changed. And then the last one, I think that's sort of like really coming on the market from a hype standpoint is fully autonomous, where you're seeing people saying software is creating itself or completing some task with no human in the loop. Now, typically, I'm a responsible AI advocate and human in the loop advocate, but I can see some use cases where fully autonomous functions can take place as well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Naren?
Hey, thanks for having me. To add to what Anthony and John were talking about, I completely agree with the maturation of generative AI and multimodal and agentic systems. In addition to that, as we have heard last week, the deal that was signed between Google and Apple, I think there's a lot of this AI is going to move onto the device very soon. And the deal that was signed by Apple with Google was to have their AI on the phone, but the data can never leave the phone. So I kind of see a huge trend moving in that direction with what we call the edge AI. And I also 100% agree with the autonomous systems. I think AI is definitely going to evolve into that with a human in the loop, though, as we can't afford to make a mistake at that scale, especially within automated systems. And I also believe the trend is going to be more around taking these very generic models and condensing them into a very specialized vertical where they can add a lot more value.
moving on, what specific industries or roles do you feel most likely to be impacted by AI? Kamil.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of those industries that are being impacted, and we can see a lot more happening every day. So the ones that we have kind of worked with is definitely finance, definitely retail, manufacturing, but from the data standpoint as well. Legal, so thinking about some document analysis and faster kind of going into this faster recurrence of analysis of certain documents. Something very similar in the healthcare, where we can see some of the technologies not even being tested, but actually put on the ground there, where we have practices that are using AI daily and helping doctors to actually assess the patient properly through a lot of the algorithms, a lot of the LLM and knowledge that it consumed to help the doctor to go through a proper assessment. So I love where this is going. And obviously, education. This is also it's not that it's taking a hit. It's a new way of actually that we need to look into the education per se. But AI can assist in many different topics, such as vocabulary, learning, teaching children on the proper kind of pronunciation. This is something that we see in just to say from the COVID era that has actually happened with Microsoft Teams, where they incorporated that kind of way of interacting with it. So there's a lot of those industries where AI in different shapes and forms are being already used. Yeah.
The design in my head from yesterday for the elderly. Once we can teach them prompts, how awesome will it be that they can interact with AI in the old age homes and relive their childhood by feeding it all the information. It's going to change just about everything. John, can you add to that?
I can. Kamil, you did a great job. You covered a lot of ground there. A lot of industries can be touched, in my opinion. When I was at MIT last year, the main funding I saw were towards healthcare, legal, finance, like you were discussing, as like major industries that had cash that would spend on innovation. I think that was like 80% of what I saw that the funding was towards. I think now that we're seeing the products mature more, we're seeing into manufacturing and they've already been in a lot of these industries in a different capacity, deep learning and other proactive type systems or even visual systems. I would say I'm seeing it actually get into like material sciences and research, cybersecurity. It's been there for a while, but it's maturing and it's auto-completing tasks. For my organizations, even in Smart City, we're using it for engagement. We're using it for analytics in the smart city space. Anything that's consuming information. But some of the things that are really exciting to me are like material sciences, these like fundamental or biomedical sort of research acceleration, testing acceleration. These are all things that I think are all these simulation capabilities are growing massively. I don't know where you play at in every organization size. I think that matters a lot too. So you have this broadness, and then you have this like how big a research department do I actually have? And then how do when you say education, it's to me, it's how are we partnering with our education institutes? Because a lot of our youngest minds are in the research department at these universities. How do we activate them into our organizations and create more corporate activations in that way? So to me, I think there's just a lot of opportunity everywhere.
Okay, so what use cases for AI are you seeing, and which ones are easiest, hardest to solve? Marc, can you lead us on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Edward. And I appreciate you and Andy putting this together. I think Kamil and John really hit really well some of the things that we've seen as well. Our company is really focused on AI agents and and providing the ability to kind of augment the human workforce and assist in optimizing business operations, specifically around supply chain. And so if you think about use cases, there's a lot of kind of horizontal use cases that we've seen around sales and customer support and contract management. A lot of verticalized solutions that Kamil and John kind of just talked about in legal and healthcare and others. If you look at that starting point, even kind of what John was saying, where a lot of the investment has come from, it's a lot of unstructured data. It's the ability to feed text, or imaging, whether that's an X-ray that you're scanning on a medical field, whether that's some type of contract that I'm feeding in from a legal standpoint, but it's providing the ability to kind of interact with the LLM in an unstructured data. The opportunity that we see and it becomes in our mind I don't know if it's a more difficult problem to solve, but it's definitely creates other challenges is interacting with more structured data. So how do I interact kind of from a data perspective bidirectionally with unstructured data, but how do I write data back to my financial system or my electronic medical record? That to us is a really huge opportunity. The way in which that's done, historically, there's a lot of different patterns for that around integration and data management solutions in RPA that have been done in a very deterministic way, kind of a very static way. And the challenge with working with more structured data is, it has to be very dynamic, but it also has to be exact. You don't have a lot of room for error if you're interacting with your payments or systems that have to be right 100% of the time. So but that's the opportunity for us. That's the way that I truly believe we can kind of augment the human workforce and do so with agents.
That's a huge topic. Anthony?
Yeah, thank you. And, like Marc said, Kamil and John talked about the different areas that are getting affected. But in general, right, we're faced with this paradigm of the initial use cases that come to mind are always around optimization and reduction, right? Reduction of something, right? Reduction of time that it takes to do something, or reduction of the assets that you have to put towards getting something done. Overall cost of something, right? No matter where that is, either in supply chain or finance, back office, front office, customer interactions, right? I mean, some of the easiest chatbot interactions are just trying to reduce the amount of time that it takes to solve something or research something, right? So then you look at these use cases and they prove out the technology very well, but what's the hardest part of it is proving out the value or what the expectation is, the hype cycle around AI, right? The boards or Wall Street, they want to read that all of a sudden AI just increased your profitability by $1 billion. That's kind of, a big leap. You got to take a lot of micro steps in order to get there, right? And I look at a lot of the RFPs or the companies that are successful in their use cases versus the ones that are not, right? Or they can't get over the proof of concept into production kind of thing. And it sounds a little bit like motherhood and apple pie, but it all comes back to strategy, right? Do you have a real strategy of what you're trying to accomplish and using AI as a tool set for that? Or is your strategy just to jam in AI, right? I've looked at RFPs that say, I want to AI enable my sales force. Great, that's an awesome mission statement, but where's the strategy there, right? And I've seen RFPs that come out that say, I want to take my liquidity management reporting that takes me 20 hours a day and I have to do this daily. I want to reduce that by half. Okay, there's a strategy. Now we can back into what's the tools that can achieve that goal and that strategy. Those are the use cases that then get into production.
That's right. And strategy is going to be a huge discussion, and everybody's got a different perspective on it. So hopefully this will help in guiding them. So number 4, question, how can companies use AI to enhance customer experience while maintaining authenticity in human interactions? Sunnie?
Thanks, Edward. And I've really enjoyed and appreciated hearing all the perspectives so far. And I especially appreciated the ones that were focused on how do we enable humans? How do we make them more and unleash their potential with AI? So I'm going to talk a little bit for just a minute about customer service. And I think most people now are aware of how we can use AI with chatbots on websites to answer customer service calls and to essentially reduce the workload on our customer services, like our humans that are working in customer service. I would like to give a different perspective and say, let's look a little bit more broadly. The use cases and the ways that AI can help support customer experience go way beyond chatbots on websites. And so I typically like to look at it in three ways. So we can look at the back office AI. So how do we make the information that's available to both the person, the human who's supporting the customer, how do we make them more efficient? But also, how do we just make our systems work better for customers so that their experience is better in general? How can we help provide our customers with information before they even know that they need it? If their contract is expiring, can't we look ahead and personalize a message to them and suggest either that they increase their subscription, or wouldn't it be amazing if we could also say they could save money because their subscription actually is more than what it is that they need? So how can we start to use the data that's available to us, personalize it, and then improve the experience of our customers in ways that they aren't even thinking about? They wouldn't even imagine that a company would help them to be able to save money in interacting with them. And then, of course, we can make our human agents more effective. I mean, how many of us have put in a customer service call and had to be on the phone forever because our poor customer service agent couldn't find our account or couldn't find anything about what the question we were asking? We live in a time where those problems should absolutely go away. And then the one that most of us and most people think of is the customer service bot. Unfortunately, so many of those agents or bots are just not very effective today. How many times have you gone and basically it's a bot, but you get the answers to 3 questions and none of them actually relate to your actual question?
Yeah.
We would just do a better job of looking at that customer journey and getting our data prepared and making it available for the different parts of our organization that need it when they need it in that customer journey. The experience for our customers is going to improve dramatically. So I would just ask that people listening to this think a little bit more broadly, especially if you're a business leader, about ways that you can leverage AI in order to improve customer experience beyond adding a chatbot to your website. And if your data isn't ready to actually support customers in using that bot, I'd suggest spending your money on some other part of the organization as it relates to AI, because you're probably not going to improve customer service. You're just going to put one more block from customers getting to the people they need, getting the answers they need, and becoming loyal customers for you.
No, I mean, we talk about predictive analytics all day, every day. What we don't talk about is predictive behavior. And that's what you're alluding to, is if you apply it like that, I mean, knowing what they're going to ask and taking them down that path of the journey and to a better customer experience, that's valuable. That would be interesting. Yeah, I don't think everybody's thinking that way. So, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, Sunnie hit the nail on the head there as far as the overarching kind of experience. And I want to just kind of double click on breaking up the little nuances of the steps again, right? That, focus on a complete strategy of your goal, but then the little steps of customization and it's funny because you have to really look at the demographics of the world. Like, I love the fact that I'm reminded by AI that anniversaries, birthdays are coming up and I get suggested products, right? Like based off of what I've bought in the past, all that other stuff. But that's not everybody, right? So I think we have to also be cognizant of the fact that we can get a little bit too little bit too customized and a little bit too into the weeds. And that kind of gets into the whole ethical and trustworthy AI and all that other piece, that when is too much too much? And that's a whole nother piece of, yes, it seems like it would be great if we can always customize our experiences for every single customer. But then at the same time, we also have to be careful not to overdo it to a point where then we've now breached kind of our customer space, and we might actually turn customers away from being too into their world.
Yeah.
And I just have a quick follow on to that. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Anthony. And I think too, I'm a big fan of personalization. I'm an even bigger fan of allowing our customers to have a say in how personalized their experiences are. And again, we are at a point now where technology will absolutely support that. And so little check-ins with customers, asking them, would you like for your experience to be more personalized, or would you prefer it to be less personalized? Like, we are in the world that we live in today can easily accommodate these types of customer interactions that allow us to tweak the experience that aligns with what they want or need. And then having a robust policy within the organization to make sure that you're respecting those answers. And then what do you do when somebody doesn't choose? Like, do you err on the side of over personalization or under personalization? And this isn't the time to go into, but I also think that it's important for us to mention here, just as personalization becomes more and more the norm, how each of us and the companies that we have the honor and responsibility of supporting and our customers, how do we ensure that we don't get people so into a bubble that they don't really realize that the world that they live in may look a little different for people that don't live in that world? And again, that's a topic for another day, but I'd love to cover that at some point.
Yes, and Sunnie, we just met today, but we certainly are riffing on the same chord here. I just want to take that one step further again, not just with our customers, but even our employees, right? We talk about use cases that that go into production versus use cases that don't. A lot of times companies just think about what they want to achieve, and they never even ask their employees about the process and like what do they need in order to make this thing happen. And they just give them a tool, and then they say, well, why didn't it work? There was no employee engagement at all either. So customer engagement, but employee engagement are both extremely criteria for success.
No, that is critical, and it's critical to have it ongoing monthly, right? I mean, that needs to be part of the plan. It's not installing it and leaving it. So let's keep it rolling. Let's go 5, and this is a big one. How can businesses ensure accountability with AI systems, make decisions that impact customers or stakeholders? Accountability, right? Naren?
Yeah, I think this is a good lead way into the discussion that Anthony and Sunnie were talking about. Because for me, accountability actually starts with making sure that we're picking the right use cases, and we don't take a hammer and go look for nails approach. I think accountability should start at picking the right business cases and then figuring out the right sizing, the solution for it. Because AI could mean a lot of capabilities in a lot of areas. So we have to be very cognizant of the way we're trying to solve the problem with the tools and capabilities we have. And once we understand that, I think putting together a very clear oversight model and a clear chart of responsibilities is the right place to start with. And with AI being a little, in my opinion, still in its infancy in its application across enterprises, especially in verticals like us, it is very important to have a framework that allows you to put more oversight up front and including additional people that you wouldn't have normally included in your software development lifecycle. Right. Usually compliance folks, when we're developing software, compliance folks don't get involved as much, but having that very toll-gated approach at every step of the evolution of the model until you deploy into production, having the right people from risk management, information security, compliance, it is a crucial thing to ensure that we're we're accountable to our customers on how we're servicing them using AI models. That's a good place to start. And then there are other technical things that we could do in terms of building telemetry into the systems itself. A lot more telemetry than we used to build in traditional software around. I mean, there are frameworks around explainable AI that we could use, and ensuring that we are testing it, especially the footprint of what we need to test is a lot more than what one person could agree on. So casting a wider net, especially in terms of testing for bias, as I think John talked about hallucinations around the large language models. We also have inbuilt bias into some of the off-the-shelf algorithms that we use, even though they're mature. So we need to absolutely ensure that the bias testing is done and taken very seriously. And once we get that into production, having the right level of monitoring using the telemetry that we have built and periodically evaluating that, or having a process to periodically evaluate that with the right stakeholders to measure the drift. Now, we trained and tested this model, this is the accuracy, but now in production, it is drifting. So being able to have some levers where you could pull in on and off as well, in some cases, if we have to turn it off for a while, there is no harm, right? Because the scale at which you can commit errors without the right supervision is orders of magnitude more than your traditional rules-based processing. So that's and then keeping an eye out for the regulatory environment, especially coming out of the EU and in some cases California, that is changing by the week. So I would say we have to stay on top of it. While this is a very amazing time for us to really reimagine some of these core business processes, it is also mind-boggling in how many regulatory frameworks you have to adhere by. So I think all of those combined, leaders in this space can be held accountable.
Yeah, and this is a big one. So I have Anthony, but I'm sure some of you guys could also contribute to this. So Anthony?
Yeah, Naren, did a great job explaining that whole process, but what he really nailed the head on, or hit the nail on the head on, was the part of bringing multiple people together and that whole team, right? And we talked a little bit, Edward, about my introduction, and I got my career started in SAP. And we spent a lot of time with IT, and then we went to business owners after we had designed all this stuff in SAP, right? And then these massive projects would fail. Same thing is happening now with AI. The most recent customer that I was with, we literally had a conversation, and I loved it, and I'm going to use it with every customer. Imagine if you were going to implement internet today in your business, the internet. Who would that affect? It would affect everybody in your organization. So I know you can't bring everybody to the table, but every department needs to be represented. To Naren's point, without that, you will not be successful with implementing AI within your business.
Yeah. You talked on a big one, right? All the software is typically works. It's the user adoption or the ongoing interaction and that feedback, either at the development or the rollout. But that's so critical to the success and the execs seeing the ROI and the KPIs that justify their investment in it. Somebody was contributing?
Yeah, Edward, I appreciate I appreciate this conversation a lot, and I wanted to jump in after Naren talked about making sure you bring everybody to the table. I think it's so important that we do that very, very early in the process. And Edward, you said the software works. Well, it works for who? If it doesn't work for the people that it's designed to support, does it really work? Just because you can click a button and it works, and there's no errors and you don't get any 404 messages and all that, does that actually mean that it works? And so I think we need to rethink how we think about what works actually means. And if it's not solving business problems overall and not solving the problem for the person or the team that it needs to be solved for, then it doesn't, just because it technically works doesn't mean that it actually works and is effective. And over the last just couple months, there was a big conference in life sciences, and there was this very significant debate about developing software for researchers and at what point to bring the actual people who do the research into the process. And it was surprising. It was a real debate. The researchers are saying they should be involved early in the process, even when we start to define what the algorithms are. They should be involved in the data inputs and the analysis part. And so oftentimes the data science folks don't necessarily want to bring them in at that process because it puts, it creates additional requirements to explain, takes more time, and they just kind of want to get things done. But the problem is then what the output is not nearly going to be as good as if they had included the right people early in the process. So thanks for everyone that brought up this particular topic. I think that's really important.
You can go, John.
Let's move to the next one. What techniques can be used to improve the accuracy and reliability of data? Kamil.
Thanks for this. I just want to, I would love to jump on all of the subjects and all of the things that you have mentioned, because this is so exciting and so interesting to actually, speak to someone who has so much to and working in this field. Just before I touch on this subject, and that's what's going to happen, I guess it's the adding on the when you said about John about the implementing the internet. When you think about the generations to come and the generations that are here with us now, they don't think about the internet and implementing an internet. What does it mean for them? And just the same way, I think in the next generation, they would just think about AI as something that is just there. You don't implement it; it's just there. So there's another aspect of it that's going to touch us pretty soon. And when you think about the customer service pieces, we are implementing one of the kind of AI, I would say, chatbots, not the RPA ones, but the new ones with LLMs in one of the travel agencies. And the reason for that is that it's the whole reverse cycle of interacting with a human when the need comes, right? When the time comes. So you're actually optimizing everything to the end, so that when you have certain things defined, when you have a real conversation with AI, as in it's a valuable conversation that leads to I don't know, some travel booking or whatever else, then the human is brought in the loop, or actually in the end of the process where everything is already kind of decided and we just want to clear it out. There's obviously agentic that's going to come later, but it frees up a lot of the time from the people that we have in this company, and they want to have those valuable conversations rather than just some some simple forms being filled in on the websites. And there's another thing on this generation piece that the new people that are in the company, they would like to have those conversations less frequently than us, I would say, the former generations that are now at the workforce. So I think this is coming as well as a new kind of way of working. But to touch on the data piece that is very close to us, when you think about everything that we do on a daily basis. And again, there are two schools, right? So the first topic that we could think of is really on the contrary to what everyone thinks, that we're going to put AI on top of everything that is there, and it's just going to simply work. There's no implementation. It's a miracle that's going to happen. AI is going to be this new workforce that is going to bring them ROI. It's very affordable because you've got Copilot that you just launch at very small amounts of investment, and that's just going to work. Well, we have been proven over the years of 20 years of working with data, and this is what we've been doing with business intelligence as well, was to actually minimize the data that is required for a specific set of functionalities or specific valuable piece for the company that is going to be addressed with that functionality, with this data points that we're bringing to the data warehouse to give them the business value. I don't know, some KPIs, some things that they will make the decision on. And now what we have is, when we're putting LLMs on top of that, what kind of questions should be asked for this specific process, especially talking with finance and some of the ending of the months or years in their books, and how can improve this with AI. So there's that. The access control is also a very important topic, because not everyone should be able to have a conversation with our models to the same extent, right? They obviously, this is something that is always in our conversations with the companies. Not to mention things like data encryption. So obviously all of that has to be following certain standards, and especially that some of the AI that we implement is heavy on the Azure cloud, because we're in this Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem, and of course the transparency and accountability. I think that is the most important aspect, and we touched on this as well a little bit, because we had a conversation with the finance department that was using our tool, and of course they tested it. It was giving the right results, and then what you need to be aware of is that a certain model can change, or it's going to do something different. How would you know that the same things that you put trust in, they're going to give you the same results in the future? And actually to control this and to put traceability into it, not even accountability so much, because it was just you're interacting with AI. So what kind of accountability will you have on an AI model? But traceability of what it actually produced and why it produced these kind of methods. This is why we designed some agents to also address that in this process. When a certain analysis being brought to life, it's being used, how would you be certain that that it's credible and you can still use it, right? So some aspects of that has to be done. And employee training, obviously, as well is on the list. Yeah, I could go forever, so just conscious of the time.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I wanted to thank everyone for
for
attending. I know we have a few people with a hard stop.
I
John,
mean,
Kamil, Sunnie, thank you so much for joining us today. Marc, great to have you, of course, my CEO. So thank you very much, Edward, for facilitating. You can reach us at contact@teamcentral.ai if you have any questions for the panelists. If we can't answer it, we'll make sure to get you to the right people. And thank you for watching our panel discussion today.